Don't mind me. This is going to get canceled or removed or revoked or absconded, this video. But welcome. Welcome, my fellow fallen. Do you remember the days when Madonna's songs were like innocent? Life is a mystery. You know, when life was just a mystery and everyone must stand alone. It was a seeking of the Holy Spirit of God. And you were praying to God. Hold on a moment. Do you remember, my fellow fallen, when the words of Madonna were innocent? She was bringing you closer to your maker, your divine counterpart, or your source, your most high source 10 point almighty God. Do you remember that? Do you remember when she was honestly singing to God Almighty? When it was innocent, when you were a child. Do you remember any of that? Obviously, we were just listening to it. And then it got dirty. You grew up and you were like, oh my God, down on my knees, I want to take you there. Madonna, you sick bitch. Like a virgin. For shame, Madonna. For shame. And then you got even older than that, and you were like, that's right, Madonna. That's right. I want to go back to when I was like a virgin. This motherfucker right here, he's going to bring it to me like a virgin. Yeah. Oy vey. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know, what can you do? What can you fucking do? I left my bag out in the car. I cannot believe that. Hold on a moment. I just put on my knockoff Crocs and I forgot. It's wet outside. Oh, even though they say Crocs right on them, obviously they are not like crikey. They don't really go in the water because my feet are soaked. But yeah, then of course, we are living in the material world. And she was right on the money with that. Then she disappeared and she was like, no. Get out of the material world. Get into your spiritual selves. I was so totally right with that first one, or with that one that we were down on our knees praying, because we totally need our spiritual selves. And then of course she was probably at like the Super Bowl or something, and she was giving the devil signs, or somebody said that about her, and then she was like, I'm out of it. I'm out the game. I don't know what happened with Madonna, but she's a babe. Well, not a babe. I mean, I'm sure everybody thought she was a babe, but she's my babe. She's my girl. She was like, not necessarily an idol to me. I wasn't going for Madonna. I was more a Cyndi Lauper kind of girl. I was more an emo bag kind of girl. I was more like, true color shining through. True colors. I was that girl. And that's me as a child. I mean, long and short of it, you can ask my mom. I was always like, I just want to go back to when I was like 5 years old, and just because I realized that I wasn't going to be able to make her happy. And so that is why I overindulged in my children's well-being. Like, nothing they did could make me upset. And then, of course, it didn't work out. I'm not saying that they made me upset. I'm saying that I kind of fucked that up. Because even though they weren't really making me upset, I was living with someone who had me in this confusing, and it was a woman. It was a woman that had me in this confusing state of affairs where I wanted to or needed to blame my oldest child, wherein I would never have done that before. Had she not have tried to point out that it was my oldest son. And it wasn't. It was her oldest son. It was her kid. And no offense, Bryce, you were a great kid. She fucked you over. She fucked you pretty hard. And that's enmeshment. She did the same thing to her younger son, her youngest son. I mean, she only has 2 kids, a boy and a boy, 2 boys. But, you know, and I mean, she's healed from it. I mean, I'm assuming she's healing from it. But then again, she wants to lay down the law in my life. And I agree with her on some points. I really do agree with her on some points. It's just that she doesn't get to tell me until I learn that. You know, until I learn that lesson, she can't tell me. And she doesn't get to control, and she shouldn't have tried to control what was going on in my day-to-day routine. God bless her. But we don't talk anymore. We don't speak anymore. She doesn't have anything else to say to me. And that's sad, because that's the way it has happened with everyone that I was friends with. Because I needed to be isolated. I needed to be alone, and I needed to figure this shit out by myself, especially since I wasn't going to take anybody's advice. I mean, you weren't going to tell me nothing. Kanye West. And the Hermit came out. The Hermit and the 10 of Pentacles. You ain't going to tell me nothing. The Moon. I was watching this storytelling, Jim Henson's storytelling on HBO. I've been rewatching it along with some fairy tales. It's Simsalagrim. You remember Simsalabim? Simsalabim used to be a magic word. Probably still is a magic word in maybe Arabic or whatever. This is Simsalagrim. Grimm's fairy tales. The truth of the matter is, we learn all of our lessons from people's mistakes, and people's mistakes get passed along and passed along and passed along on these fairy tales, Aesop's fables, the Bible, the Biblia, the Torah. And what we're finding now is we are finding these stories hidden in caves, etc., 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 because those were not, according to some, you know, the ones that wanted to scare you and fearmonger you into paying them money to go to their church to believe what they believe, but you were forced to do it. That some information was either withheld because it made us powerful, or withheld because it was not the right time for us to figure it out, because it would make us it would overpower our sense of being. Like, we would just, because of where we were at in the dark ages, we would just be like, yeah, see, I'm gonna take you over, see, your village is mine, see. And it just wouldn't be okay. So we're coming upon these scrolls and these Bible books, and some people are like, no, you can't convince me those are real books of the Bible. You can't well, I don't have to. I don't have to. You either resonate with that, you resonate with this, or you don't. But there is a Jim Henson's, and it's a fairy tale. It's a Germanic or some kind of fairy tale, some kind of lesson, folklore, whatever. It's about shuddering. And I have been listening to many a YouTube channel, to many a self-help guide, spiritual, evolutionary guide person, what have you, whatnot, or whatever. I've needed it, as well as I've needed therapy, as well as I've needed to shut the fuck up and listen. I've needed to figure out why my body and why my physical world has not changed. Why I still have no energy why I still feel stuck. I need a place where I can get loose, bitch. Loose. And why I keep remastering these same sad songs, you know, like Landslide Remastered. Fuck, you know, like, yeah, that's my favorite song, but it's not though. It's not. Yeah, True Colors is my favorite song. Yes, it absolutely is, but I don't want it to make me cry. I want it to make me happy. I want me to sing it to my kids and that my kids be there, and you know, I want us to be painting a wall, you know, the brightest color of the rainbow or whatever. I want us to be in under a waterfall and us seeing a rainbow and have that fucking song come to mind. Not me be alone in my fucking car at 2:00 in the morning and it's a new moon and dark as fuck and no stars and cloudy and fucking snowing and cold. I don't, you know, sad. I want it to be coming from joy. My tears are going to have to start coming from joy. And how do I do that? Well, I gotta fucking stop being stagnant. So this fairy tale was called FearNot. And this man set out to find fear because he wasn't afraid of anything. He was a dimwit. He was a dumbass. In the very beginning of the story, they say he was a dumbass. He was good for fucking nothing. And his dad gave him money and said, here's 100 gold pieces. Go out and figure out your place in life because I've had it. I can't fucking handle this shit anymore. You know, like, I ask you to do something, you get halfway through doing it, and you forget what the fuck you're doing. And that's me, totally. It's not that I'm not afraid of anything. It's just that I get stuck and frozen. And so he goes out, and he runs into a beggar on the side of the road. And the beggar says, oh, you look like you have a sweetheart. What's her name? And he says, you know, I don't even know. And the guy says, well, have you got a mom? And he says, no. And he goes, well, neither do I. But my mom called me such and such. And he says, oh, I'm called FearNot. And the guy says, well, for your sweetheart, I have this beautiful shawl. Maybe in giving it to her, you could figure out her name. How much money have you on you? And he said, whatever, 100 gold pieces. And the gentleman said, oh, well, I won't charge you, but 2/4 or a little, or not 2/4, 3/4 of how much you owe or how much you have on you, because that's about how much I paid for it, blah, 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 blah. And the gentleman, and FearNot said, well, I can't give you that because can't give you any of that because that's how much I told my dad I would use to figure out something that would help me out in life. And what would help me out in life is to figure out how to shudder, how to tremble with fear. And the vagabond that was, you know, the trickster, the gentleman that he ran into said, oh, well, I can show you how to do that. He said, hold on a minute. And then he snuck up behind the man and he's, boo! And FearNot was like, what? Are you okay? Ah! Are you all right, Mr. whatever his name was, McKilney or something like that. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. Hold on one more minute. I've got something for you. And he takes out his knife and he puts it at FearNot's throat. And he says, do you know what this is? He says, it feels like, I'm not positive, but it feels like a knife. And he said, yeah, it's a knife. And you know what? It could cut a hair in half. It could cut you clean through. He said, oh, well, that's a beautiful knife. That's a very sharp knife that, you know, that will do some thin slicing, blah, 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 whatever. It'll help you in the kitchen, blah, 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 whatever. And he said, but I'm sure you wouldn't cut me because, Mr. Kilney, we're friends. And then he, you know, slaps him on the back and Mr. Kilney falls over and he's like, yeah, you're right. We are friends. I'm going to find you something that'll get you, you know, that'll really scare you to death. And he goes to bring him to some place where people have been scared to a watery grave. Like people have all drowned in this pond. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on until they find this huge, in this castle that people have never made it out of. Anyways, they find gold. And he still doesn't learn how to shudder. He's not afraid. He's still not afraid. And they have all the gold they need. They have they've made their fortune. There's no need to be afraid of being poor. There's no need to be afraid of robbers or thieves because they have each other, blah, 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 whatever. But he goes home and he had left his sweetheart there and he didn't even know her name. So he goes back to her house and come to find out she had been under a sleeping spell the whole time he had been gone because she was afraid he wasn't going to come back. He never found out her name and he never told her he was leaving. And he came to her room and her dad said, since you've left, she has not batted an eye. She's not sat up. She's not eaten a thing. She's been asleep this whole time. We can't figure out what's wrong with her. I'm so glad that you're back. Maybe you can do something for her. And he starts singing to her, playing his guitar, whatever, I don't know. And she wakes up immediately. And he says, you are what made me shudder. You being asleep and me thinking you're not going to wake up, me thinking you're dead, is what made me tremble with fear. And now, like I said, I've been listening to this gentleman, or I have found this gentleman online, and I've talked to you guys before about the trembling of animals, the shaking of animals, the twitching and the electronic impulses that go through animals' bodies when they have been chased by a gazelle or not a gazelle, like a gazelle when they've been chased after by a lion. I've talked to you guys about cats when they get up to, after you've pet them and you they shake it off. They can just shake it off. We'll come to find out, and I had no idea, that after we've been afraid, after we've been in a life or death situation, when we are in a life or death situation, as toddlers, as children, as infants, we can, and we do, shake it off. That's why there's a song, Shake It Off. The reason that we don't actually do that and shake it off is because it is a sign of weakness. We consider someone who trembles, someone who shudders, someone who will, with like older Parkinson's, who shakes like that, we consider them weak. When we see them do that, and they haven't moved through it, they sit in that state, those are the ones that the tribes would pick off. That's why ayahuasca will have you shake. They will shake it all out of you. They will move it out of your body. That is how you lose addiction. That is how you no more hand to mouth. That is how you can move out of fight, move out of flight, move out of fawning. We're all in fawning. We're all in fawning. I don't give a fuck what you say. We are all in fawning in one way or another. All of us. We all have somebody that we're extra super duper uber nice to put on a mask, to pretend that we are all good in the hood. Baby, baby.